So, hello everybody, good morning. How's your morning been so far? Are you having a great time? Wow. Is it was yesterday evening that good? Or this morning so bad? Come on, people. Just a bit of energy. How you doing? Great? Okay, cool. So yeah, we're in a movie theater. I was thinking on my way here in the plane, what are good movie titles which you could show in a cinema when you would film the life of a developer? Something like Merge Awfully Gone Wrong, Searching for Ducks, the sequel, Searching for Ducks, the next sequel, Lost in My Code, No One's on Call Forever, those kinds of movie titles. It's not all that good, I think. I'm going to talk today about how you can improve your developer experience, mainly using a tool called Backstage, which is an open source tool. I will tell you all about it, give you a demo, and hopefully you will walk away inspired at least to improve developer experience and maybe take a look at Backstage, hopefully. So, question. Who in the past few years onboarded at a company as an engineer? Okay, that's quite a lot. Who enjoyed that experience? Who would do it again? Whoa, that's 3 people. That's quite a lot, actually. Who can find the documentation within their company to do their job properly? Okay. Who can search forever for documentation, but finds documentation scattered all around the company, is outdated, and you can't find the person who should update it? See, then you are in the right session. Let me start that way. So I work at Spotify. I do developer relations for this project called Backstage. And Backstage was developed at Spotify to improve the developer experience. The reason is that Spotify grew very, very rapidly. And like in many companies, when you are with a few teams and you are collaborating, it's not that hard. Like if you were here for the previous session, you can quite easily improve how you work together. But then your company grows and you have more teams. You get to, have ways of working, maybe decide on some platform stuff to make sure that you are somewhat aligned. And then you are going to do on-call with new people, new team. And they might not know where to find everything. You need to share your documentation. You need to be able to find who's responsible for what. And that is the problem that Spotify ran into. Because Spotify grew really, really hard. Really, really fast. And at some point, we tried to improve tooling, implement tooling, so that you could see who was running on call, that you could find who was responsible for an application. Where does this application actually run? So that was solved. But then, when people were new in the company, it was super hard to onboard because they needed to onboard for their own job, for their own work, which is already quite hard. But they also needed to learn how to find the right information and how to collaborate with these other people. So let's fast forward a little bit, a few years later to 2016. It's when this campaign I particularly like was launched. Spotify was in a hypergrowth. And for dealing with that hypergrowth, more engineers were being hired. Really, a lot. But you come to a point that when you add engineers, your productivity doesn't increase, it actually slows down. your infrastructure, your tooling, your platform, it will eventually be really fragmented. And onboarding is hyper-confusing. Collaboration is hyper-confusing. New technologies were introduced with specific domain knowledge, but people were not able to find it, find the information, and to collaborate. So we needed to do something. So we brought together a team to develop this portal, where everybody could find that information. Who's running on call? Where's the documentation? Where's the source? To improve that collaboration. And that one team that created that portal called it System Z. Not important, please forget it immediately. And it was a success. But there was one mistake. One big mistake. And we learned the hard way. Who has an idea what went wrong? Any suggestions? No one? Just shout if you want to say something. There was one team managing that portal. So there was one team focusing on that, improving that collaboration and the productivity. But if you have one team for, let's say, 1,000 engineers, and somebody wants to add a self-service functionality for adding a data pipeline, and someone else wants specific information because they use that one tool for running on call, they had a huge backlog. Like everything that needed to change in functionality, it came to that one team. They had a huge backlog. So that was not really good, because then you have that portal, and you can't really work there without friction, because you can't place your stuff in there the way you want it. What are you gonna do? Just gonna put some web page here or there, figuring it out yourself, solving it, because you need to go on. You want to go on, right? So we needed to rethink that. And we decided that we needed to prioritize our developer experience. So the idea of the portal was really good, but the way we executed it, not that good. We could improve that. So we went back to the drawing board. And there were a few principles we had in mind. And that is that, yes, we wanted really the speed, but we wanted it also to be safe. You want the speed with the safety. You want to control the chaos. You want to make sure that it doesn't go out of control, right? That you have all this fragmentation and you can't handle it. And yes, of course, you want to scale. But you want to scale it in a way that you can still understand it and it's still manageable. That you can still collaborate with each other. And we wanted to improve the collaboration for the people so that they were able to build out this portal themselves. And it was a huge success. We launched this developer portal as Backstage, where people were able to contribute by writing plugins. So if they wanted functionality, or they were using some tool, or they wanted a self-service, offering self-service to other people within the company, they could just write a plugin. And that was a success. Like 80% of the plugins we have now is from outside of the core team. And that's a total of over 120 plugins. So that team that manages our developer platform, developer portal, that's only 6 people. The rest of the company is now able to, with their domain knowledge, to contribute to this project. It's a huge inner sourcing effort. And that really improved. So one of the measurements we had is the number of days, don't ask me why, the number of days to get to the 10th pull request. And before we implemented Backstage, it was 60 days. Just imagine, You're onboarding somewhere, sounds really great, great company, great technology, but it takes you 60 days to do your 10th pull request. That's a long time. After we introduced Backstage, it went down to 20. That's a huge improvement. So people asked us, hey, what do you do? How do you solve this problem? And they got to learn that we had this internal developer portal. Can we get our hands on that? And we thought, well, we have this internal portal, that's really great, but if we want really to live up to the promise that we really want to improve the developer experience, people out there might have way better ideas. It's really good to be able to collaborate. So a little over 2 years ago, during our Hack Week, we released it in the open. And soon after, it was donated to the Cloud Native Computing Foundation. And it's now, just a few months ago, reached incubation status. And we hope to work towards graduation very fast. And it's a huge success. We have over 1,000 contributors, and the most of them also contribute in code, and oftentimes return to contribute code. There's over 250 companies that we know of that adopted Backstage. And that's important because you can have this in developer portal and you can open source it, but it's really important to know that other companies adopt it. If you're thinking, hey, that Backstage is great, it's good that there are really huge companies backing this project by contributing and by using it and improving it. And yeah, I said Backstage is mainly successful because of its plugins. So nowadays there's over 60 plugins available for many different tools. For your favorite monitoring observability tools, for cloud providers. If you use Azure or Google Cloud, you're able to find plugins for that. For GitHub, testing, you can find a lot of plugins. And they're open source, and you can download them, and you can use them, and you can improve them. And you can write your own. So if you're missing something, I will not say it's easy, because I can't judge what is easy for you. But it will not be a lot of work to do it. And there's another advantage of using an open source platform to improve your developer experience. Because you have the community backing you. And it's fun to work with the community. Because if you see something that you're like, why is it in this way? You can discuss it, you can propose a suggestion to change things, you can contribute code, and you can improve the product that way. It's a real cycle. If you decide to write a plugin, for instance, you can contribute it to the community. It's not mandatory, but you can do that. And you suddenly have 1,000 contributors extra who could possibly, maybe, work on your plugin as well to improve it. Okay, enough with theory. Let's take a look, shall we? So a little backstory, because I always think demos of portals can be quite dry. Let's imagine I'm this engineer, and I was just hired at this company called Rocket. And Rocket is an interstellar travel company, pretty much like a Uber for space. Anyways, long story short, I was hired, and I was hired to work on one of their applications. So during my onboarding, I learned that they used this project called Backstage. And basically, this is the first thing I did after I went through all the mandatory HR stuff you need to go through. Got my laptop, I opened it, and they told me that there was this thing called the Golden Path. And a golden path is best practice we adopted. It is an experience which guides you through your onboarding. And not only the dry stuff like, oh, this is your team, that sort of things, but really from setting up your developer environment locally to learning which are the APIs, how do I push stuff out there, how does team monitoring work. All these real-life things I have to go through if I want to launch my microservice. I go through it in golden path. That's the whole objective. So by the end of this whole path, which, well, let's assume it will take me a week, by the end of the week, I will actually have launched my first microservice. And it will work. It will have the connections normal applications have to a big table. It will have a connection with the API and retrieving information from there. It will be the full experience. It will not maybe be the $1 million project, but at least I will be satisfied. And it's hugely a boost for my confidence. So after I went through this whole golden path here, which is in the documentation part of Backstage, I've learned that how this works and how I can deploy information and how I can search. So the first thing I'm going to do after that is, of course, look at the application I'm responsible for. So I go to the catalog, and in this catalog I can also filter, of course, on what other projects and components we have. I can filter maybe on the owner. So I'm part of the TravelX group, and there's my application. And there you go. This is basically the homepage of a service, in this case a website, web app. Here I can see immediately the relations with the other components we have. I can find some information who owns it, a link to a dashboard, some information about the incidents that are happening. This one is open for 24 days, probably not that good. I use Prometheus, so I have a graph here and a direct link to my Grafana dashboard where I can find some satisfaction ratings for the application. Okay, cool. So now I learned a lot more, and these cards can be any plugin. So if I would maybe use GitHub Security, I could put a card there with relevant information. If I would use Kubernetes, I could put in the Kubernetes plugin showing relevant information. So the whole idea is that this page has all the things that I would like to see. So that I have this overview of how this microservice is doing and what is valuable. You decide when you add the plugins to this overview page. Now there are some other plugins here. So if I press here on the CI/CD tab, you can see that I've installed the GitHub plugin showing my actions. If I click on this, I can drill down a little bit, getting more information. Now you might wonder, but why? What does this add in functionality? Well, it does not. It is not here to replace your tooling, but it is there to give this overview of information that is relevant to me. So if I want to know how my pipeline was doing, I just want to know if it's red, orange, or green, or whatever tool you use. It might be even another color. If I have a problem, I will have this overview and I can maybe guess where I need to go next. So probably I will look at my pipeline, maybe go to my cloud provider's portal to solve an issue there, or maybe going back to my code because I forgot maybe to run prettier from a documentation which was included. Always happens to me, by the way. But there's many other more plugins which you can add to have a more in-depth experience. And also, of course, the documentation included there. pull request plugin. This one is probably going to time out because of the VPN, yes. And also like an overview for my incidents. So I don't have to switch continuously between all these tabs and all these different interfaces. I can just find that information for the thing I'm looking for in one place. Okay, let's go on. I'm using an API. So if I want to write my first microservice, I would probably want to know how that works. So I'm going to click that. Once again, this is the homepage of the entity lingo for this API. Yeah, and I can find out what I want to do. Yes, this is exactly what I wanted. So I can find the information for this API, and I can build up my confidence and build up my knowledge about this. There's some more extensive documentation included. So this is also all in one place. That is very useful for me, so I don't have to switch between repository, Confluence, and maybe other tooling we are using. It's just there to aggregate things. And it makes my life a lot better because I don't have to leave this portal. Okay, spend a lot of time searching for stuff otherwise. I know now a little bit about the API. I know how my engineering organization works. So I might be confident enough to try and write just a microservice for the first time. No, I'm not going to write a whole microservice, but I kind of show you how I would deploy that. So for this, I would use software templates. Software templates is our scaffolder functionality. It is there to create my application according to all the best standards, the best practices we have, the requirements we have from the different departments. It will make sure that it is compliant. And when I deploy this, it will go through a wizard. So let's just give it a really non-descriptive name. There you go. Give it an owner. An owner is, by the way, always a team. Persons cannot own a thing, because in the end the team is responsible for what you build. And I'm gonna put my corporate name there, and there you go. Good, so it asks me a few questions, and these questions are used to populate a script, populate the template. This can do anything. It can create a service on Azure, for instance. It can maybe create a Grafana dashboard, but also the skeleton application for me. So it will actually create a repository, making sure that everything is in there and ready to go for me. I can just write my code. It saves me a lot of time. And there's examples of organizations using it to first create a ticket, then create the service, then update the ticket, then do the next step, then update the ticket. And they go through the whole workflow, and you can put it all in there. There's a lot of actions available already also as an open source plugin. And we hope that more are coming. I'm pretty confident about that. So when that's done, my microservice is being created to work on in the repository, and it is added to the catalog. Another fun plugin is, for instance, the company radar. Now I was downstairs at one of the booths. There was like a nice brochure with radar in it. This is basically the same thing, but in Backstage. So if I were to start a new project, I need to identify which technologies I should use or should not use. It should be crystal clear for me what is common to do, what is advised to do. So it will show me the various technologies and frameworks and versions of frameworks probably, and I can see that, okay, well, I can probably go ahead with React. Well, okay, that's good. That's good to know. Yet another plugin. So one of the things that is super difficult sometimes is to find the right people within your organization, the right help. Because nowadays, you literally need to know everything. You can't. Sometimes you just need a hand. You need to be able to maybe do a mobbing session with somebody, maybe to pair on something. There's many, maybe you need a full embed for a project. This is a sort of internal marketplace plugin. So I can, for instance, say, ask CSS help. So I need somebody who knows CSS because I'm a mess. So I put in CSS help for a project, and I can just post it on our internal board there. So there you go. And then I select the application. So this is the marketing mini site. Surely it will have a lot of CSS. There you go. So I post it on the board, and other people can find this on the board, and they can search and find stuff to do. Maybe a fun side project to work on, or maybe something really, really exciting where they need help. Like, oh, I always wanted to join that project. Well, let's do that for 2 weeks. Let's see how that is. So I can here instantly join this, but I can also have a view of that project. They have a bit different cards because it's a different department, so they use other tooling. A good example of that is if I go here to the CI/CD tab, it will show GitLab because this, like in many companies, they use something else than the rest of the company. Like it's hard to stick with one technology sometimes. And yeah, so this is all determined by the information which is provided in the entity, which is the thing determining what is showing here. So what does that then look like? Let me hope that this goes fast. Well, spoiler alert. So whether you like it or not, it will probably look really familiar because we use YAML. This is based on the Kubernetes object model. We really like that one because it's quite clear to use, easy to understand. So everything that you see in these pages is fed by these YAML files. If there's an extension with the configuration, it's placed in the annotations. For instance, the CI/CD tab, that is just based on if it's a gitlab.com address for the project slug or a github.com address for it. And then it will show different information. Sounds like a small thing, but for me it's really important to just go to that one CI/CD tab, no matter what is being used. If it's Jenkins or GitHub or GitLab or Bitbucket, whatever. And that is the whole idea, to make a great experience. Well, there's over 60 plugins. I'm not going to show them all because there's not enough time in the world. So yeah, why? This is a great story. Why is this interesting? Well, there's a lot of technologies available. This only is the CNCF landscape card. Well, a few years ago, you could still somewhat see the logos if you put it full screen. But nowadays, it's grown, and it's growing hard. Like outside of the CNCF landscape, there's also a lot of stuff happening. There's a lot of products and services available, and you need to somewhat be able to use them, but also make sure that others can use it. The adoption of new tooling for your productivity sounds really great, but you need to be able to help people adopt those technologies, to make it simple, to make it easily discoverable. And yeah, you want to have happy developers, because happy developers make happy code. The happiness of a developer determines on a few things. Like, is my job, does it have purpose? But also, how's the communication with my team? How's the communication with the larger team? How's my collaboration? Is there transparency? Do I know what's happening? Can I determine what I need to know to do my job properly, to understand if I'm doing a good job or if other people are doing a good job? Can I resolve that incident because I can find stuff? Do I spend half my day on things that I should not do? It all makes you unhappy. You want no friction, you want to stay in the flow, and you do not want to continuously context switch. And yeah, if you do not focus on making your developers happy, they will be happy at some point, but they will be happy with the bugs walking out of the door. So it's important to invest in that, because it is fun to improve stuff, you get a lot of learnings, and you all stay happy. So to summarize, Backstage is one front end for your infrastructure. So it's not there to replace your tooling, it's a layer on top of it. It is there to be that single pane of glass for all your single sources of truth. It is an interface, important. It really has autonomy in its core. Like, people who build stuff should be able to own the stuff. If you have a certain knowledge domain, then you can write a plugin, and you can maintain that, and you can manage that, and improve it for your team, the experience, but also for others. And yeah, I said the word team a few times. That is basically the ownership model. Teams own everything. So one team owns the metadata of a service, even if it's a big inner sourcing project. So yeah, in the demo, I've shown you that you can create new software, that you can manage software, and that you can explore stuff. And this is the thing, right? It's the plugins. So what are these plugins? Well, it's a bunch of TypeScript. So basically, if you put together some TypeScript or JavaScript and you put it in an NPM package, then you have your plugin ready. There's one command to generate a whole skeleton, which already does 60% of the work if it's a front-end plugin using an API to talk to, like for instance the GitHub one. And yeah, you can just write and do whatever you want. There's no opinion. So yeah, there's a few types of plugins. The API displaying plugin is called a front-end plugin. The tag radar one, it's basically showing static information. You could write that with anywhere, well, between 2 and 4 hours probably. And you can also put in plugins which contain logic or need a data store. That's a bit more work. But you should be able to write a plugin anywhere between, let's say, 2 days and 3 months, depending on how difficult. So yeah, now you know how you can use Backstage to make your developers happy. Important to know is that you always need to start small. Just try to improve one thing and build it out from there. Use that knowledge you've gained from the community, how to interact, where's the community, how does this Backstage thing actually work, how's the plugin creator experience, where can you find the right documentation. That's the knowledge you want to share with the rest of your company, and slowly expand from there. And there's a great link here, link page with some good information. One of the links you can find there is the Getting Started documentation. And you can spin up your own Backstage with already some integrations. You go through the whole experience within anywhere between 20 and 40 minutes. So yeah, I would say try it out. It will really change the way you can collaborate together, and it can massively improve your developer experience. And now it's time for some questions, because otherwise I will get in a row probably.